Have you been entertained at all by the sour nature of Derrick Lewis during his interviews this week? He gave kind of a jab at John Morgan's neckline. He said if he buys the UFC one day, he's going to come after all this MMA media. He also couldn't come up with the name of the guy he's fighting. Look at Sergei Pavlovich, who is a minus 130 favorite, by the way, has won 2 in a row since being stopped by Alistair Overeem. Here's the deal, Luke. Lewis is 37. He's been stopped in self-implosive ways in 2 of his last 3 fights. One by Cyril Gane, one by Tai Tuivasa. Both where you're just like, oh shit, is he going? Oh, he's gone. He's out. It's over. Not his best, Luke. Not his best. It's just really hard because he doesn't give a fuck about this. He doesn't care about titles, rankings, positioning. He's always said from day one, I'm here to make money and feed my kids and have a little fun, but I hate this shit. Dude, if anybody is a sly fox, is a crazy, like, it's this guy, dude. Here's the deal. To beat him historically, Luke, you kind of have to prove that you're either elite or maybe you're on your way there. Tai Tuivasa still kind of up in the air, but let's give him credit. He overwhelmed Lewis. He found the weak spot. He got him out of there. I have not yet to believe that Sergei Pavlovich is on this level. So Luke, even at 37, even with the rotund belly, and even with some very forgettable performances, remember that Latifi fight? Derrick Lewis can go out there and shit his pants. But he's got motivation here to come back, get a survive and advance win. I think he gets it, Luke. Well, how do you handicap in this matchup?
Man, I don't know. Because here's the thing. You're looking at these shots from the Tai Tuivasa fight. Part of the reason Tai Tuivasa won is that he's a fucking refrigerator. You know what I mean? Like, his chin and his ability to absorb damage is next fucking level. Like, is there anything more certified than Derrick Lewis's punching power? Like, ask Curtis Blades. I think Curtis Blades is overall a much better fighter than Derrick Lewis. But it didn't fucking matter. It didn't fucking matter at all because that uppercut that he threw was brilliantly timed. He's battle tested too, by the way. Like, to your point, for better or for worse, Lewis has been in there with the very best of them. And, I think part of the reason, like, dude, how many heavyweights would have survived some of the punches that Derrick Lewis was landing on Tai Tuivasa? Not many.
No.
Not many.
No.
So, and here's the thing with this, is Sergei Pavlovich, he has some nice wins over Abdurakhimov and Green and Golm. Golm, by the way, just fought over in Bellator. That was the guy who beat your guy, Darian Foster, I think was his name.
My guy?
Well, the one you said was the sure bet.
Davion Franklin. Davion Franklin, Luke. That was my best bet of the week.
Sorry, what am I saying? Foster. What am I saying? I can't keep the name straight.
Arian Foster? Is that where you're going with this?
Yeah, I'm thinking about Foster's beer. What are you going to do? I mean, I'm washed. All right. But the point I'm trying to make here is I do remember the Overeem fight very clearly. Now, granted, that was his UFC debut, and hello, that was Alistair Overeem. But, dude, Overeem beat the fuck out of him. I mean, it was a one-way shellacking. So, like, the wins that he's gotten since then are nice. His record is nice. Some of his numbers are nice. For Sergei Pavlovich, he lands 6 strikes per minute, a little bit over. It's really high. Kind of absorbs a lot, though. 4.45. That's kind of also high. Here's the thing. I'm going to ride with Derrick Lewis in this one. The loss to Tuivasa wasn't great, and maybe Pavlovich is a lot better than we all think. I'm happy to eat crow on Monday for all of the picks that we make. Who the hell knows? But the truth is this, like, Derrick Lewis, I am a little bit worried about how his mental state after suffering that knockout in the way that he did. I wonder where he is with that. But he's got big power. He's beaten guys better than this before. Pavlovich, not really a heavy takedown guy necessarily. I got to tell you, I just don't have, I'll say it this way, BC, maybe you agree. I just don't have a compelling reason for me to pick Pavlovich at this moment.
Let me dead wrong myself. He's won 3 since that UFC debut loss to Overeem, and all 3 by knockout, but a certain level of competition. Now, if Lewis's heart is just not in it, and he doesn't come in great shape, right, is he suspect to get walked down by a guy who won't go away? Yeah, we just freaking saw it. But, look, because he doesn't care, we've seen him bounce back. Dude, I'll say it ad nauseum, but when he lost to to Daniel Cormier, he got to the title level. He went all in and went for it. He got dominated. I didn't know if he'd still care and still make comebacks. He's come back a few times from that. Yeah, I just haven't seen enough from Pavlovich. So let's let Derrick Lewis go out there, do Derrick Lewis stuff, get the knockout, make a ridiculous comment afterwards. And then, Luke, we'll see him against another huge name because that's what he does.
Let me ask you, where are you on, do you, is it at all in your mind that Lewis is coming off of a bad knockout loss, that could play a role here?
No, because I don't think it's in his mind. That's the difference. I think he's really just a gunslinger who's like, okay, next chapter, next barroom brawl, let's do it.
And that's just what happens with this style. And
there's a certain level of people that can take his punches, but that level is very small, and it's typically the elite, Luke. So, that's what it's going to come down to here, obviously. Lewis at plus money, yeah, I'm going to take this bet against Pavlovich. Thank you very much. Luke, before we get into Ankalaev-Smith, probably the best fight, besides the top two, without question. Alexandre Pantoja in this flyweight division, taking on Alex-Perez, who fought for the title as a late replacement, hasn't fought since. Perez 150 plus 155, Pantoja minus 180. Are either of these guys, in your eyes, kind of still in this greater title picture, which has ridiculous parity? Is there something to really gain in this fight to sort of crack that party atop the division?
I think Pantoja is the guy that could do it. He has a loss to Figueiredo, fair enough, but he's got wins over Schnell. He's got the loss to Askarov. I believe that one was controversial. Then he's got the wins over Kopp and then Royval. He can do it. He is a guy, to me, that looks better than ever, or at least I would say continues to improve. I think this might be a better way to put that. It has well-rounded skills. Before it was kind of like, grappling-centric or whatever, and now I think has a little bit more to the story with that. And that's why it's a bit of a problem for Alex-Perez, who is a talented guy, but to your point, has been off for a long-ass time. And part of the way in which he got overwhelmed against Figueiredo in his last fight was Figueiredo used basically tricky grappling. Like, I'm not saying Pantoja's on the level of Figueiredo when it comes to that, but he's not far apart either. Very good at finding the back, very good finishes from the back, excellent back attacks. I just feel like for Perez, who is a good kind of wrestle boxer, Pantoja might find himself like out athletic with a guy who's just ready to down block and get out of the way and break contact and sit on his punches. Yeah, that maybe could win. I mean, it certainly would have beaten the older version of Pantoja. With that, I agree. But this newer one looks to me a little bit more able to balance those kinds of competing challenges. And it's a tough fight for Perez, especially with that layoff. I like Pantoja's a guy to me who let's see not just if he wins this, let's see how he does it and if it comes relatively easily. Because if he does, you can see him here beating Royval from the back. He's got good jiu-jitsu. He can strike now a little bit.
Yeah,
he's someone to keep your eye on for sure.
Absolutely, I fully agree with you. I like his chances in this fight. Alex-Perez is tough, but I do think if somebody's gonna crack into that mold and maybe eventually work their way into a title shot, it could be Pantoja. He does seem to have that game. He can be flashy, can be aggressive, can go after it. You got to be that in this division where could be hot potato belt season. We'll see what happens. Luke, let's focus on it now. Magomed, Ankalaev, Anthony Smith. So much at stake here at 205. Maybe potentially the winner, even passing Blachowicz and Glover for that next shot at Yuri Prochazka, but it would take something spectacular. That aside, Ankalaev, a monster favorite, minus 500. A lot of people talking that could be too much, could be too far, but his win streak has shown you, Luke, that he could do some special things. But at plus 400, Anthony Smith is coming in. 3-fight win streak, all by stoppage. Never goes away, this guy, Luke. He's consistent. He's tough as shit. He bounces back from big defeats. He grinds out victories. Can this man, the much maligned man on this show, polarizing man on this show, although we love his instincts and his backbone, can this guy, Anthony Smith, pull the upset and put that hammer back in the cabinet come Saturday night, Luke?
I think he can. Although I will candidly say, I agree. Minus 500 or whatever it was. Let me look it up here. Our friends at Caesars. Was it really minus 5? Jesus Christ. Yeah.
Plus 400 for Smith. Yeah.
Actually, it's minus 550 at the moment. Good Lord. Yeah, I think that's a little high. Other places have him at minus 600. To me, that seems a little bit unfair, if I'm being honest with you. But I do believe that he is very, very talented, and I do believe that he is the guy to beat in terms of rising contenders in this division. So I somewhat, understand the heavy nod. Again, here's the thing. It's like, it's a tough fight for Anthony Smith, but you're asking, on what way is it winnable? Back attacks is the thing for me. Now, the problem for him with the back attacks is the wrestling may or may not be there. In fact, if you look at the takedown accuracy of Anthony Smith, and takedown accuracy is something that doesn't need to be high, but but it can be, somewhere in the high 40s, low 50s. That would be a good number. The problem is for Anthony Smith, it's 28%. That's low. It's low. It's not high. It's not like he has bad wrestling, but he doesn't have the kind of finishing off of any clinching opportunities that he might need to really, truly threaten a guy like Ankalaev, where he could, get the body lock, throw him around, force him to his hands, then take the back right away. In fact, Anthony Smith kind of likes to strike it out, right? He likes to duke it out, for better or for worse. He actually has a negative differential. He lands 3 strikes per minute and absorbs about 4.3. He's got over an integer as a negative differential there. But to me, there's a couple of ways I think if he is patient. We have seen Ankalaev kind of match that intensity. Like if you are overly aggressive, which sometimes Smith has a tendency to be, that could be a problem for him. But I think if he actually slows this down, goes to the leg kick, forces contact, I don't necessarily recommend pulling guard, but I don't even think that's necessarily out of the question. What I think he really has to do is back up and force Ankalaev's action towards him.
Yeah.
And I think look for the body lock, look for trips, force him to his hands, sit him to his butt with any kind of tripping, something like that, and then work from the back. His back attacks are probably the very best at light heavyweight. I mean that genuinely. I don't know who has better attacks from the back actively inside the top 15 at 205 pounds than him. You're looking at his win streak over Clark and Crute and Spann. These are guys that I think he was just much better than on the feet, and they kind of charged into him, and they didn't have anything for him. Ankalaev is going to be more careful. The key here for Anthony Smith, no matter what way he wants to go, he has got to make a guy like Ankalaev make mistakes. He has got to make him make mistakes. And how do you do that? Probably a few different ways, but you've got to force this dude off of the sort of steady pattern of offense that he gets going. I'll be curious to see what he does.
Ankalaev riding an 8-fight win streak since that 2018 submission loss in his UFC debut to Paul Craig. It's included a pair of knockouts of Kutelaba, decisions over Krylov, Ozdemir, Maheta. I mean, there's those who kind of believe this guy already is the best lightweight in the division. He just hasn't gotten his title shot yet. If he beats Anthony Smith, it's going to be hard to keep him away. There's that old look. You see that stat that floats around on Twitter when it comes to MMA betting. If you have any form of Magomed in your name, the percentage of betting them to win is like guaranteed money coming out of your faucet. Just turn it on, Luke, and the gold comes out. Could be the case here. We're going to find out. A very important bout. A lot of stakes here. I've told you, come around. I know who Anthony Smith is at his core. I'm cheering for him, but it is an uphill battle. It'll be interesting to see. The advantages there in the grappling in terms of submission threat is real for Smith, but do you want to dance with the hammer, Luke, to get to that point?
It's tough. The other part, too, is, dude, here's another part that's tough for Anthony Smith. Magomed Ankalaev's striking defense. Usually this is around 50%, sometimes high 50s. For the very good ones, it's in the 60s. Magomed Ankalaev, 61%. That's high. He does not get hit a lot. That's a big problem that Anthony Smith's going to have to solve.
Luke, what's the most important fight on this card beyond the main pay-per-view portion? Is it Drew Dober? What is it? I mean, there's not much to pick with, Luke. It's like, it's not necessarily picking kernels of corn out of your shit. I mean, who does that, Luke, right? Who does that, right?
Have you done that? Let's just ask that. Have you done that before? I mean, that is true. How are we winning awards? This is the dumbest show. You know what? I'll say this. I don't know if it's the most important, but I will mention this. Matthew Semmelsberger's a guy out of the D.C. area. He's a good fighter. Alex Moreno out of Texas, a good fighter. Semmelsberger, a bit of a heavier puncher, I think, of the two, a little more physical of the two. Doesn't have the experience that Moreno does against better opposition, but it's a close one. Our friends at Caesars have Semmelsberger as a minus 155, Moreno as a plus 130. I think that's fair. To me, it's closer to a pick'em. I like seeing guys from the D.C. area get going, in part because I'll say this. Around this neck of the woods, we have very good camps, right? There's Kaizen MMA, and there's Clinch Academy, and there's obviously Lloyd Irvin has a gym out in Camp Springs, Maryland, and the Yamasakis are here. But
Ryan
a lot of it is
Hall.
like heavily jiu-jitsu based.
Yeah,
it's
Ryan
not
Hall.
a lot of, say what?
Ryan Hall.
Ryan Hall's 50-50, but that sort of serves my point, right? It's more jiu-jitsu based. It's not. There are MMA guys that train there, but it's a little bit more, again, with the grappling base. And I would like to see some of the MMA guys really begin to. I'd like to see them succeed here, and I would like to see some of these smaller gyms, be able to create a guy, not just get credit, but get credit for the right reasons. To be able to create a guy who can level up through the ranks.